So a lot of women at this stage feel like they have capped out their current business model. So what that means is in order to, let's say, double their income, they would have to work maybe double as hard, which really isn't sustainable. And many times they're like, I don't have any more energy to work any harder. So how would I ever grow beyond where I am?
Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm Makena Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Makena Sage, and I'm here with our second episode in our business series this January. So we had last week a episode about a simplified path to creating 6 figures or more as an entrepreneur. And now, a lot of you listening are probably past that point, right? You may be at 6 figures or you're far past it, and you're really looking to make an income leap. So maybe you're wanting to go from 6 to multiple 6, or you're in the low multiple 6 figures and you're wanting to double or triple that number. And so that's really what this episode today is about. And even if you're not at that stage yet and you happen to be listening to this, feel free, go ahead and listen in. You will learn a lot, but I do recommend going back as well and listening to last week's episode, because what it takes to grow at each different stage of entrepreneurship is very different. So what it takes to go from, just starting out to kind of getting your first clients, or from there to 6 figures, is very different than what we're going to be talking about in the episode today, which is already you have some foundation under you. You have an established business, you have kind of a track record. And so again, all of it's valuable information. It's great to be educating yourself. So I want to really acknowledge you for that. And just know that that's really what we're going to be covering today. So I just realized as I was kind of working on some of the posts and everything for last week's episode, that I've just reached 11 years in a row of making 6 figures or more, and 5 years in a row of making multiple 6 figures or more. So super exciting. That's an amazing milestone and really cool to just be able to look back on. And so I wanted to share that because I'm not going to go deeply into my story in this episode. I talked a lot about my story last week and in many other episodes, but I'm not going to share a whole lot of background or a whole lot of credibility, but hopefully that gives you at least a snapshot view that I do know what I'm talking about. And I've also supported hundreds of entrepreneurs. My mom and I both do business coaching, among other types of coaching, but the majority of our clients are entrepreneurs or career women that are really looking to grow in their businesses and their incomes and their impact. And of course, then we work with them in other areas of life as well. So we have a very holistic approach, but many people come to us for business primarily. And so it's really fun to be doing these episodes here. And so personally, I've helped support hundreds of entrepreneurs all over the world to grow their business at many different stages, anywhere from just starting out to multiple 7 figures in annual revenue. And the large majority of my clients, at least in the kind of private space, and then many of the clients in our mastermind are in the 6 to multiple 6-figure range. We do have clients far beyond that and clients that aren't yet there yet. And really, there's no judgment here. There's no anything like that. Wherever you are is incredible. It's perfect. And everybody's been at different stages at different times. So this episode, though, is really geared towards those who are in that range, which is where many of the clients we work with happen to be. I love working with women at this stage because, again, at that point, you have a certain established track record. You have confidence to some degree, at least. You're no longer in survival mode, hopefully, if you've reached at least 6 figures. And there are different challenges that present themselves at this point. So I'm going to share just a few of those, and that's what we're going to take as a jumping off point today for this episode. So as you listen, just notice which one of these do you resonate with? Like what really feels like it maybe connects with where you are right now. So a lot of women at this stage feel like they have capped out their current business model. So what that means is in order to, let's say, double their income, they would have to work maybe double as hard, which really isn't sustainable. And many times they're like, I don't have any more energy to work any harder. So how would I ever grow beyond where I am? So that's number one. That's one of the challenges that we see. Another one is that women at this stage in business often feel tired because they've been going, right? They've been building their businesses. A lot of times they have families, they have a lot going on in their lives, partnerships, and they're still doing everything in their business. Or maybe they have a little bit of support, but typically not much at this point. So they don't have the team or the systems in place to start to really free them up to get into their sweet spot. And I want to define what I mean by this because some people know what sweet spot means, some have no idea. So your sweet spot is really that, those areas in business, those areas within what you do where you are lit up, you love them, you're great at them, and they move the needle. They bring in revenue or they create, maybe you're the creative force in your business. And so your sweet spot is like where you're getting results. And it's also what you really enjoy. It's what lights you up, what brings you alive. So that's what we define as your sweet spot. You may have other skills. You may have other, things that you bring to the business that are very important and help move the business forward. And that's great. You're going to need that at this stage still until you build a team that can take a lot of those things off your plate. Eventually, the goal is to spend as much time in your sweet spot as possible. Right? If you could spend 80% of your time in your sweet spot and only 20% of your time doing the things that maybe aren't as much your, what you love, what brings you alive, think how your life would be different. Now, that's a lofty goal for a lot of people who maybe only 5% in their sweet spot or 10% right now. So wherever you are, it's okay, but just know that that's a huge part of this process and this transition as you continue to grow your income is to move you more and more into alignment with what really fits for you that also moves the business forward. So in that, you may right now be in that place where you're still doing everything. And so we want to really start to have you make that shift. Now, sometimes if you've been, let's say, at a plateau of some kind for a while, like you've been making the same kind of income for a while, you've been running the same business for a while, many of our clients have been doing what they do for 5, 10, 15 plus years. And when they come to us, they feel tired, certainly, but also a little bored, and many of them are wondering, is this still really what I want to be doing? Should I be doing something different? Should I be thinking about making a change? But then again, on the other hand, they're saying, well, I don't want to give up the success I've worked so hard for, right? I've put a lot of time into this. I've built a reputation. So if you resonate with that, we're going to talk about that as well. And I just want to say that I've gone through all of these challenges at some point or another. And I want to address this last one first. So there may be times and there are situations in which someone truly needs or wants to make a pivot, to step into something new. And I actually did this. This was my story, which many of you know, which in very brief is that I was in a different business, making 6 figures plus for many years. And then I was having anxiety, having panic attacks, having a lot of signs and symptoms and burnout that I really needed to make a change. Now, that's not to say that everyone who's having those symptoms needs to make a change. We have many clients, some of whose stories I'll share with you today, who were in a similar situation and it ended up that they didn't want to make a change in the end. So it's not one size fits all. And but what we do find, I will say, is that in about 90% of cases, when we work with women who are feeling this way, in the end, after we go through this process I'm going to share with you today, they realize that it's not the work that they're doing that's not a fit anymore. It's actually the way they're working. I'm going to say that again. It's not the work they're doing that's not a fit anymore. It's the way they're working. And I went through this myself at one point, even after I'd stepped into coaching, which is truly work that I love. I'm great at it. It's in my sweet spot. I feel like I'm of service. It feels like what I'm here to do, or at least a big part of it. And even within that, I still, for a long time, was burning myself out and burning the candle at both ends and pressuring and stressing myself out and not getting enough support and struggling with a lot of these things we're talking about today. And it wasn't until I realized this, that it was not the work I was doing in this case. I didn't need to make another pivot. It was the way I was working. So I wouldn't make any snap judgments about this right now. Just know that you may be one or the other, but about 90% of the cases that we do see, women do end up falling back in love with their work. When we start to clean up energy leaks, which I'm going to talk about, and they get support in their businesses or in their personal lives, and they start making a lot more money in a lot less time, then they fall back in love with their work again. So just know we may not know what the answer is for you. Now, we do have a podcast episode on this topic called Bored with Your Business. Should you leave or grow? And we will link that in the show notes. So if you want to go deeper into this topic, then you can listen to that episode. But let's assume for now that you are in the 90% of business owners who are going to fall back in love with your business once you get more into your sweet spot. Or maybe none of this really applies to you and you love what you do, and it's not even a factor. You're just like, I just want to grow. How do I grow without working harder? So the first thing we do when we are coaching someone who wants to double or triple their income is we do a high-level analysis of where they are now. So let's say they come into private coaching, or they come into our mastermind, our Wealthy World Changers mastermind with my mom and mentor, Gigi, and myself. Or they come in and do a VIP day. We do VIP weekends where we work with people immersively for 1 to 2 days, and we really support them with, all of this, everything we're talking about today, and often go into other areas as well, personal, which we'll talk about in a little while here, why that's important. So wherever we happen to be, if we're in person, if we're on a coaching session, it's a deep dive, let's say 90-minute or 2-hour session when somebody's first starting with us. So we really do a high-level analysis and we go, what are you offering, right? What do you have available? What are your rates? And these are just examples of some of the questions we might look at. How are you spending your time? Do you have support? And what really moves the needle to bring in business for you? And then how much of your time is going to those activities versus how much of your time is being spent on busy work or tasks that could easily be taken on by someone else if they were trained. So we're doing this kind of analysis. We're looking at where are you now, taking a snapshot of your business. And then we also look at personal, what's going on in your personal life. And then we really identify what I call energy leaks in your business as well as in your personal life. So what are the biggest drains on this person's time, on their money, and on their energy and vitality? For example, if they're fighting with their spouse on a regular basis, that's an energy leak, right? This is where personal starts to impact business. If you are having arguments with someone on a regular basis and there's a recurring conflict or different kinds of conflicts, then that's going to drain your energy. That's going to distract you. That's going to pull your attention. And so it's something we need to address. This is why we coach holistically, because every area of your life impacts every other area, right? We can't just focus on the business and ignore everything else. If your health is really suffering, that's going to be an energy leak. That's going to be a drain. If you're tired all the time, you're not getting enough sleep, then it's going to be hard to put into your business what you need to really have it grow. So those are a couple of personal examples of energy leaks. You could have, let's say, some people have piles of unpaid bills that they just haven't gotten to, right? Or paperwork that's been sitting there that they need to handle. Or this happens also is that sometimes people have tons of invoices open with their clients that haven't been paid yet. I just had a client last year who had, $10,000 or something, or $15,000 in open invoices with her clients. and she didn't have a system in place to be following up with those clients and getting those paid. So pretty quickly, within a month or two of us working together, she got all those handled. That was a huge return on investment right there, right? Because those were just dragging out and dragging out. And then on top of that, she really went for growing her income. So we see this a lot, is just having open invoices, let's say. There could be things like repetitive problems that keep coming up in your business, or just like little things that keep frustrating you that need to get handled. So start to pay attention, start to take an inventory. Where are the energy leaks for you? You can make a long, big list. And then if you're spending a ton of time, again, doing things that are not in your sweet spot and aren't moving the needle to bring in new business, then that's a huge leak too. And this is one of the blind spots for a lot of people. You can make your list, but sometimes it's hard to see these things for yourself. This is why people come in and coach with us, is that very quickly we can identify, right, all of these areas and even blind spots for them. And a lot of times this is one of them, where they're spending tons of time posting on social media, but we really look at how many clients have come in through social media in the last year, and often the answer is little to none. Or they are, let's see, I'm trying to think of another thing. I don't know, doing tons of admin or working on these projects that they think are necessary, but when we really look, it's not really moving the needle to move their business forward. So this energy leaks could also be other open loops. Anything that distracts you, keeps you awake at night. Even things like not taking care of yourself, like we said, not getting enough sleep, feeling wound up all the time. Those are all examples of energy leaks. So it's a very broad category, but it's really important that you do an assessment of this and really see what are those energy leaks for you, so we can start step by step systematically to clean those up, to kind of plug those leaks so that all that energy is no longer going out and you're keeping more of that energy to really pour back into your business. So how do we do this when we work with people? And again, this is all things that I did for myself as well. And Gigi really supported me. She really mentored me through this process, because I was the classic do it all myself solopreneur. I did not think that anybody could do it as well as I could. I did not think I could hire support. I kind of tried a couple times and dabbled, and it just felt like it was more work than it was worth. So I was completely in that similar kind of position. I did not have systems in place, and Gigi had to hound me basically and keep telling me, like, clean that up, delegate that, get somebody, putting systems in place, getting support. And over the years, she trained me and I trained our team, and she trained our team as well, to really create a flow here where we can be in our sweet spots the large majority of the time, which is such a great feeling. I can't even describe it to you, to really be able to be in the things that you love to do and that you're great at, and know that you have people to support you to do the rest. So putting systems in place is, we always say, every pressure needs a system. And I believe we have an episode on this as well, that we will link to in the transcript and in the show notes. So if you're curious about more of what we mean by that, every pressure needs a system. Hiring team is really, really big. And most people think that they can't do this. They can't afford it, that, it's not going to work for them. And I will just say that, yes, you can do this a lot sooner than you think you can. And this could be something as simple as hiring somebody to clean your house every other week or something, if that's really a drain on your energy and time that you could be putting into your business. So it could be personal support, help with your kids, or it could be support in your business, which for many of our clients it is. And, there's all kinds of options these days in terms of hiring somebody part-time, as a contractor, hiring overseas VAs. We have a team of 3 full-time VAs who have been with us for many years now, and they're incredible. And, we started with one and we built from there, and it was a lot more affordable than you might have thought, right? Because they have differences in what their expenses are in their country. They're making great incomes. They can pay for childcare for their kids. They get holidays. We take great care of them. And it's very different than hiring somebody here in the States, let's say. That's just one example. There's many ways that you can approach this. So those are a couple of things in terms of cleaning up the energy leaks. Learning communication skills I know that doesn't seem like it's related, but let's say you are having conflict in your relationship, then communication skills may be the thing to clean up that energy leak. This is one of Gigi's real areas of genius, and she just put out a whole program about this called The Way of Growing Love, which we can also link to in the show notes, and just really how to communicate more effectively with your partner or with, anyone of the opposite sex, let's say. But communication skills are huge in your personal and in your professional relationships. Okay, a couple other examples of closing energy leaks is creating a better rhythm for their days and their weeks so they can get more done. So really looking at how are you spending your time? Most people are just in reaction mode in the way that they live their lives and run their businesses. They're just booking things all over the place, reacting to what comes in. And they're not strategically looking at how do they want to be spending their time? What's the rhythm for their days? Are there certain days where they're taking calls, certain days where they're working on projects, certain days where they're taking off, whatever that might be? How do you create a rhythm that really works for you and allows you to be far, far more effective? And then also putting those kinds of systems and rhythms in place in your personal life. So do you have a regular date night with your partner? Are you spending time with your kids? Are you taking care of yourself, sleeping, exercising? So it seems like these things would take away from your work, but actually, as long as you are, kind of navigating both at the same time, it's really powerful to address both at once, to be really caring for your personal life, which is super important, and then also caring for your business. So that's really number one, is clearing out these energy leaks, closing them up. If you have a boat and it's leaking all over the place, you're not going to stay afloat for very long. When you start to close these all up, then you can start to paddle. Then you can start to really move and get somewhere. Now, the next thing was really looking at someone's business model. So can the rates that they are charging get them to where they want to go, right? If you look at what you're charging right now and you think, okay, what's my goal? And you work backwards, how much more do you need to, how many more clients do you need to enroll? How much more do you need to sell to get to your goal? And is that doable? Is it actually sustainable? Or is it going to put you into stress and strain and overwhelm? And for most people, that's what they find, is that it's just going to put them in stress and strain and overwhelm. And that's why they haven't grown beyond where they are. That's why they're plateaued. So then we start to look at, okay, well, how can this be shifted? Can you offer higher value packages to maybe your current clients or new clients? Where are there so-called low-hanging fruit that can really support you to get to where you want to go? So I want to give you a couple of real examples of this with clients that we've worked with, because often small tweaks can lead to huge income leaps. So one of our clients, who's a tax preparer as well as a bookkeeper, when she started working with us, we really did this whole process we're talking about now. We looked at her whole life and business. We did the analysis. We looked at the leaks. And by the way, this takes time. It's not like this happens, like that. We could do the overview and the plan in, let's say, a weekend, like when somebody comes in and works with us intensively. But most of the time people work with us over a longer term, at least 6 to 12 months, and then often come back year after year because they keep growing. And the reason that it takes 6 to 12 months for a lot of people to really make a leap like this is because you've got to tackle one thing at a time. You can't do 25 things at once. So for this client, we were doing the analysis. We looked at the leaks. We were starting to clean those up. And simultaneously, we were looking at her business model. And we saw that she was charging really relatively very low rates for her tax preparation. And when she looked at her competitors, her rates were much, much lower. Now, she didn't want to jump a lot, but she said, well, what if we went up by $10 or $20 a person, right? So she had something like 200 tax clients when she started with us, 200 in the year. And so 200 times $20, that's another $4,000 in the year, right? One small tweak that increased her income by a few $1,000s. Now, I don't remember if these were the exact numbers. This is just an example. Some of her clients were business clients. So let's say their taxes went up by $50 and she had, 50 of those clients. Then another $2,500 there. So these little tweaks started to add up. She also started charging for consultations. Before, she would do consultations for free. She would end up spending a lot of her time, and she started just charging a little something. And that really created a boost in her income as well. Another thing with her was she was one of those clients who had lots of invoices out and people not paying on time. So we put systems in place there to have clients pay ahead of time before she did the services for them. So we did a lot of different things. And over the course of the first year that we worked together, she went from working 60 plus hours a week, 60 to 80 hours a week, especially during tax season, to working, I don't know if it was half in that first year. She's working, about 30 hours a week now, she says. It's been a few years now, but I think she decreased huge in that first year in terms of how much time she was working. And she increased her income by 1.5x. So she went from the number she was at and then 1.5x her income in that first year. Since then, she's actually tripled her business, tripled her client base. And she continues to grow at a really rapid rate year after year. And we have systematically with her followed this process that we're talking about today. So that's one example. Another example is a client of mine who is in the, let's say, consulting space for sales. And she does that for businesses and individuals. And so I'm actually just going to read a little quote from her after we work together, because I think she says it better than I can. She came in with an idea of how she thought she needed to grow. And this is often the case. People think, well, this is what I need to do to grow. Maybe everybody else in my industry is doing it, and this is what's going to make the most sense. And we really broke it down and saw, maybe that's not it. And so she said to me after we worked together, I will admit that the strategy we developed was not where I thought we were going to go. We started by going back to the clients I was already working with. A couple of them doubled their investment with me without adding more work to my plate. And this was true. We really looked at her enterprise clients, her consulting clients. We found ways to add more value without more of her time. So they doubled their investment, but her time stayed the same. So she essentially halved the time she was working for double the money. She said, I shifted my offerings and raised my rates. Then I brought some new clients in at those new rates. So here we go again. We're already doubling here, decreasing the time we're working, or at least keeping it the same while the income's gone up. And then new clients start coming in at these new rates and the new amount of hours being worked. So as a result, she said, we nearly doubled our revenues from where we were less than a year ago before we started working with you. My non-monetary goal is to get to where I'm only working 3 days per week, and I'm already down to 3.5 to 4 days a week. So she hadn't quite gotten to her time goal yet, but she was well on her way when she shared this with me. So again, this has to do with the business model. This has to do with how you're approaching it. How can you add more value for less time and, tweak your offerings in such a way that maybe your current clients shift things or they upgrade, or maybe new clients come in. So these are some of the things we're thinking about when someone is at the 6 to multiple 6-figure level. She was around, I think she was around 500,000 or 600,000 I hope I'm quoting that right, when we started working together, and she wanted to double. So she was on her way to 1 million and beyond. So what happens when these changes take effect? Well, first, let me just recap kind of what the 3 main areas are that we talked about. First is addressing energy leaks. So really putting systems in place, getting support. And again, we have a whole episode on systems, but a system could be as simple as a standard operating procedure, an SOP. And bringing someone in who could then, act on that thing. So if you invoice clients the same way every time, then creating a simple procedure around that, and then handing that off to an assistant or something like that, so that you don't need to do it anymore. A system could be that instead of, paying your bills all through the month and it being a big distraction and things falling through the cracks, you do them on the 1st and the 15th of every month. And you have a little time on your calendar, and that's it. You don't have to think about it outside of that. So there's many, many, many different kinds of systems you can put in place and getting support. And this one really has to do with eliminating distractions as well, as part of clearing out income or clearing out energy leaks, and really getting you more into your sweet spot. Another one that I touched on is to really take care of yourself, to know that you are the batteries of your business. If you're a solopreneur or have a small business, then your energy, your vitality is so important. And of course, you have to do what needs to get done in the business. But one of the biggest skills I've learned that really helped me in growing from 6 to multiple 6 figures and so on is taking breaks. Sometimes when you get overwhelmed, just quitting for the afternoon or quitting for the day, and then getting back to it the next day with much more clarity and energy. And then finally, reevaluating your business model. So looking at your offerings, looking at your business model overall, and seeing what needs to be tweaked or overhauled completely to get you to where you want to go. So what happens when you do all of this? What happens when somebody starts to make these changes? First of all, their income grows, of course, while they're working a lot less. And I shared a couple of stories about that. This is what people want when they say, I want to work smarter, not harder. And I hear that a lot. People say that, but I don't think they know exactly what that means, right? They just know they're overwhelmed. And that sounds really good. Work smarter, not harder. The truth is, to me, that means make more money while working less time and having more support and being more in your sweet spot. So that's really the biggest thing that changes. Also, we find that people have a lot more energy and inspiration, where they might have been feeling again bored before by their business or just drained and tired. They start to have energy and vitality again. New ideas start to come online. And as a result, they're happier, they're more fulfilled. And also their relationships improve. So as people start to make these changes and they're happier, more fulfilled, then that trickles into their relationships, even in their personal lives. And also we hear a lot that these women that we work with feel more supported. They don't feel like they're in it alone anymore. And that's because they have team, they have support in some way there. Some of our clients have their kids come in and start working in their businesses in some way. And also feeling supported by us, by their coaches or by the other women in our programs. So however that support shows up for you, feeling supported is a really big piece of this as well. So you're not sitting there feeling like you're in it alone. And then another one is new opportunities showing up out of nowhere. And I say out of nowhere kind of in air quotes because this is all part of the process. It's not an accident, right? The more you get your energy aligned, your vitality online, and you are doing what you love, you're freeing up, time and energy, you are taking care of yourself, ideas again are coming online. All of this starts to contribute to this energy where synchronicity can come in and opportunities come in and people feel your energy and they want to be a part of what you're doing. We had another client, I think I mentioned this maybe last week in the episode, that just talked about this, who was like, wow, when I kind of started shifting and clearing up some of these energy leaks, and I started approaching my business differently, we started having people want to work with us left and right. It was such a change. So that's an example of new opportunities showing up out of nowhere. So there's a lot more I could go into on all of these topics. But hopefully that at least gives you a high-level overview or a starting point for where to begin to make your next big income leap. And if you're curious about, working with us, getting support to do this, these are the kinds of things we do, as I mentioned, in our private coaching and our Wealthy World Changers Mastermind, as well as in VIP coaching weekends. So if you're curious about that at all, you can just email us at support@wayofthemuse.com. support@wayofthemuse.com. Just send us an email and say, hey, here's a little bit about me. I'm curious about how you could support me. What would be some options? And we can jump on a no obligation call and just chat through what we have to offer and how we might be able to support you. The other thing I do have coming up that I wanted to mention, I talked about it last week, is a class called Focus and Flow. And this is a 2-day or 2 half days online live training, and it's at the end of January 25th and 26th, 2025. And this is really a course that is for people whether you're in the early stages of your business or you are further along. It's really for people at all of those stages, because we're going to go through how do you take your business to the next level without, again, just overloading yourself. You're already overwhelmed. You're already busy. So how do you sort of streamline and cut through the overwhelm, eliminate the distractions that aren't actually getting you results, and focus on what really moves the needle, getting you more and more into your sweet spot, right? And then other things we're going to do in this weekend is we are going to look at some business strategy. We're going to look at what are those different approaches you could be taking. I don't believe in one size fits all, but what are some of the things that could really move your business forward in a really profound way with less work? And also client enrollment strategies, different processes that are heart-centered, that feel authentic and are authentic, so that more people say yes to working with you. Because if you can increase that percentage of people that you talk to that say yes, that's one of the lowest hanging fruits, right? Improving these skills at any stage of business is really, really powerful. And then we're going to create what I call your money magnet roadmap. And so this is really your step-by-step plan to reach your 2025 financial goals, whatever those are. So really kind of working that plan like we talked about today, but having the support to do it in a group. And so that's a little of what we're going to be covering. You can learn more about it at wayofthemuse.com/focus. And that is a very entry level kind of course with me. Again, it is live, which I love a live format. And in terms of investment, right now, the investment is $147. It's going to be going up to $197 after January 15th. I made an offer on the podcast last week, which I'll do again here just to reward our listeners, which is I'm going to give you a discount code for $50 off. So right now, if you use that discount code, it'll give you the entire weekend training for just $97. And once the price has gone up, then it would be $147. So you're going to get $50 off whatever the current rate is. And that code is podcast. So you'll go to wayofthemuse.com/focus. You'll go to the sign up page. And where it says have a coupon code, you're going to enter the code podcast to get the $50 off. This is a great weekend to inspire you, to learn, to get in there with other people, to ask your questions, and also to get a sense for our coaching. If you are curious about hiring a business coach this year, or you want to get a feel for what it is like to work with me or with us, then this is a great opportunity to come in and have a little experience of that. So hope to see you there. And I hope that you've gotten something incredible out of today. Even if you just take the steps I talked about and you workshop this yourself, it's going to make a huge difference. Taking that time for reflection, taking that time to really to take the zoom out, right? That's what working with a coach often does, is it gives you're investing and you're working with someone to get in there and be kind of a sounding board, to look from a different perspective, but also just taking the time to sit down and look at all these things when you're so caught up in the day-to-day of your business all the time that maybe you don't do that. So the course, Focus and Flow, will be great for that, or you can do this on your own, right? Set aside the time and really work the process I talked about today. So I'll see you on the podcast next week. Our episode is going to be about how to find clients without paid ads or posting 24/7 on social media. So this is something we'll go much deeper into in Focus and Flow, but I'm going to give you as much as I can in the podcast episode next week. So I will see you there, and happy January.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.